Hello. So for our project, we decided to look at food access and food insecurity in the Ann Arbor community. Basically, what we wanted to do with this project was to collect a bunch of resources and information regarding food insecurity and kind of streamlining it into one website and an infographic, kind of making it easier for people to search up our website, find some easy accessible resources and find the right resource that fits them the most. And so our website is sw305project.weebly.com. And like I said, we'll also have an infographic that we wanted to spread and share throughout the University of Michigan community and surrounding Ann Arbor / Ypsilanti community. And so first with the infographic, it was basically a pretty basic infographic. We wanted to tackle, the main question, which is, do you need help with food? And give a couple of prompts to help guide people to resources to start tackling that issue. And we kind of gave two things, like what is food insecurity, what resources are food pantries. So if somebody's unsure if they actually are food insecure or unsure if a food pantry would actually help them, they have that information to help guide through their decision-making process. And so kind of going through this, you answer a couple of questions. And if somebody comes across this and they do need help with food, then there's more questions down here asking like, are you University of Michigan student or faculty, et cetera, and guiding them towards that right resource to help them get access to food or other resources to help them. There's also the ways you can help. So if you answer no and you don't need help, so it's kind of like if you don't need the resource, be a resource. And there's ways to volunteer, donate, and spread awareness. And everything on here is basically linked to another website or to our website for more information about each of these resources. So we want to make this a central location for Ann Arbor students or faculty, as well as Ann Arbor community to get food access. And so some of the main ones that we mentioned in this infographic are Food Finder, Maize and Blue Cupboard, and Food Gatherers. There's more information about these below, as well as in other tabs. But these are just kind of the highlighted resources that we wanted to center people's attention on. As well as going to something like our mission, kind of describing who we are as a project team and kind of why we wanted to tackle this food insecurity experience and why it speaks to us as well. And so going through this, we can now go to the other tabs of our website. So we can go to background and let one of my teammates take it away.
All right, so like Justin was explaining, this website is designed to address food access and food insecurity. And so a main part of that is knowing what food insecurity and food access actually means. So the first picture on top of it just kind of shows that food insecurity exists on a spectrum. There's mild, moderate, severe, and anywhere in between. And so through our research, we've recognized and started to learn more about ways that impact what places people at different points on the spectrum and how that can be experienced. So a very basic definition from just a dictionary definition of food insecurity. So it's the state of being without reliable access to a sufficient quantity of affordable and nutritious food. And so this connects a lot, food access connects a lot with social justice, and it's something we've briefly touched on in this class and we all wanted to learn more about, especially in the communities that we're a part of. So at the University of Michigan, more than 30% of students struggle with food insecurity in some sort of way. So we recognize that it is an issue on our campus, like many college campuses across the country. So yeah, this tab is basically just a lot of background on it. We put in a few videos and information, and then also just outlined why this project and this website and infographic exist, like Justin explained on the first. So just that this is part of our final project for a social work class, and our approach is just to be an information source and resource guide to basically connect people who need the resources to the resources that exist to serve them. So there's often a gap between those two groups, whether it comes from misinformation or inaccessible information or just too much at once. We wanted to minimize the access and just give as many direct paths to get food as possible.
Okay. So our next tab of our website is called Effects of COVID-19 on Food Security or Food Insecurity. Sorry. So food insecurity was a very, very intense social issue that a lot of people across the country and across the world experienced prior to COVID. But now that COVID has struck the entire world, we wanted to sort of get a better understanding of how food insecurity has changed in response to it in our community. So as university students, we are still affected by food insecurity. And here with these three images, you can see we've outlined the impact of COVID-19. So you start on the left and you have safety concerns. And it talks about how students have stayed on campus still for various reasons, even though COVID-19 is happening and even though we were recommended to go home. Some students were not allowed to do that, were not able to do that because home might not be safe for them, whether they live with grandparents or other family members or their house is, again, packed with a lot of people. It might be too difficult to go home, so many students stay on campus. Then you have the middle column where we have unemployment, and this still affects university students. Even though, we're students, we also may be working, and it's a lot to balance. So just to give a little outline here, the university closed down on March 11th, and students were recommended to go home that same day or a few days after that. All the libraries, dining halls, gyms, and research labs were closed, which were main hubs for student employment. They have been closed since March 11th, and they will be closed until September. So again, all those jobs are lost, and students don't have that income that they used to have, which leads to food insecurity. And this is just one way that students can be led to experience food insecurity. And so you have all your expenses as a student and job loss, whether it's both together or one or the other. It's a formula that results in food insecurity for a lot of students at Michigan, above 30% of students at Michigan. So the next part, we wanted to give an idea of how food insecurity has changed. So we have pre-pandemic on the left and intra-pandemic on the right, because it's still happening. On the left, there are facts about food insecurity in the United States and about college students specifically, across the country, and specifically, again, at the University of Michigan. And then, so before we had 37 million people that were food insecure, to give an idea, and above 30% of college students at Michigan that were food insecure. Now this has changed drastically, and we have nearly double the amount of people in the country that are now food insecure, let alone on our campus. There have been a lot of people that have been struggling with this. Numbers are still to come out, but you get this idea that it has increased a lot in our country. So on our campus, it must have had to too. So at the bottom, this just wraps in COVID-19 and Food Finder, which is one of our resources. Jack Griffin, the founder of Food Finder, gave us a lot of this information and spoke with us. And he's been tracking the numbers. And I think we'll move on to our next tab.
So our last tab on the page is detailing the resources that we found to be particularly important for students and faculty at Michigan. We first start by explaining some of the organizations that we have listed in our flowchart. So the first one is the Maize and Blue Cupboard, which is free for Michigan students and faculty with an M card. And it provides a lot of fresh resources and protein sources for students on campus. It's actually funded by Food Gatherers, which is another organization that we have in our flowchart and reached out to. And Food Gatherers partners with 170 organizations across Washtenaw County, and it provides food for students, adults, elderly who need to find food in different sources. So it could include at nonprofit organizations, at churches, at schools, but it also has food kitchens where people can get a hot meal if they need it. And they have a guide on their own website that helps individuals find the closest place that fits their needs. We also have Food Finder, which Sam spoke about earlier, which was created by a alum who was a cask miner. And Food Finder is an app that connects individuals to food banks in the area that they are, in order to take out any stigma against people asking about food banks or where they're located, and helping individuals get food in the quickest and most efficient way. Some other organizations that we have listed on our resource guide include the document called Being Not Rich at UM, which is also created by a cask miner. And it's a guide that outlines resources for students who might be of low socioeconomic status, first generation college students who need help in education, food, funding, and outlines these resources, but it's compiled by all Michigan students, and it's a resource that's more collaborative. And finally, we have resources that are listed and available from the University of Michigan. And this includes CAPS, the Office of Financial Aid, and Wolverine Wellness. And the university might have services and funding available to help students secure food and housing if they are facing some financial difficulties. Although we do note that these services can often be inaccessible for students, and that's why we have created this guide, is to make sure that students have resources available. And finally, we have SNAP and WIC, which are government programs that help make healthy food and food in general low cost and available to people who have financial hardships. And we do want to mention that this is not a comprehensive guide, and that there's many more organizations and resources available to students within Michigan, Washtenaw County, and across the nation. We also have some more reading, listening, and exploring sites that people can go to if they're interested in finding out more about the impact of COVID, or how often food insecurity is faced by students on campus, which is often a population that's overlooked. Now we're going to answer some questions about our project. I'll start by talking about the level of change and impact that our project is intending to have, which is, we thought about it as a micro and meso level impact. Micro level because we know that it's going to help the individual. So the flow chart that was created is helping people get tied directly to a food source or a food bank or any place where they can get food at a more affordable price. And a meso level because it's directly connecting the individual to the community and the institution. So we're helping to educate individuals about the problem of food insecurity while still tying communities in need into institutions that are trying to help them.
And then kind of going off of that and looking at like core concepts and frameworks that we've talked about in class, one that stood out to us was looking at the models of community practice, and we felt that this website and our approach for this fell under organizing functional communities. So that's having a focus on special interest group, not necessarily a geographical identity, but or not necessarily a geographical group, but more so an identity. So people who are affected by food insecurity, and that's part of their everyday lives. So just kind of building awareness around that, and creating a community or creating a place that these people can come. In our case, it's going to be a virtual website. And then, let's see.
Yeah, and then we also had sorry, I don't know if you had wanted to.
No, you're good. You can go ahead.
So another thing too that we wanted to address with the questions is our method of change, as we said throughout our presentation, is definitely educational and awareness, and trying to consolidate all these resources that are available, educating people about these resources, and then also being able to direct them to more resources once they've kind of figured out about food insecurity, where to start, and so forth. So that's kind of the method of change that we were going for, is educational and awareness.
Check out our website.
Yeah, check out our website.
305.
If you have any questions or anything, feel free to ask them, and we look forward to talking about this project with you all.